Well, I guess it's going to be noontime because the clock's going to tell us that. I should have not turned it on until it got through. I'm sorry. That's... Hello, Maggie. That clock I got for my 40th wedding anniversary. I was working at the Bon Marché and I got sick. Anyway, I came home sick and I crawled into bed and Tom hadn't got back yet, and I can remember I was in bed thinking, what a 40th anniversary. And he came in and he said, I got a surprise for you. And he handed me, anyway, I forget how much it was, but he kept handing me $50 bills. And he says, it's for you to do anything you want. And I wanted a grandfather clock. And so that's how we got it. Wasn't that sweet of him? But anyway, I wasn't going to make that video on that. You always see me in the kitchen or outside, but you know, there's more to my day than that. This is where I love to sit, and this has been one of those days when I was still in my nightgown when the first little emergency came up, or crisis, and nothing big, but stuff that had to be done. Breakfast was late, and everything it seemed like was late, but finally I'm having time to just sit down, get my feet up, and then I'll start my dinner, which is quick and easy. But I thought I'd tell you, I love to read, and that's some of how I survived my 80s. In my whole life, I've loved to read. As a child, I didn't really read all that much. There were certain books I loved. I loved to be doing stuff, and I had an older brother, and we did lots of stuff together. But as I think it was in high school, we had to read The Tale of Two Cities, and everybody was groaning about it. And I couldn't put the book down. I just loved it. And from then on, I was hooked on reading. Well, when my children came along, I loved to read to my children. And we read all sorts of things. When my first child was born and he came home from the hospital, I started reading to him. I read, and not that I knew he wouldn't understand, but he could hear my voice, and it was a way to bond, and it was a calming time. And so that just set the pattern, and I read to my kids until they were grown up and out the door. Then I read to Tom, and I still read to Tom. And I read mostly, I like non-fiction. I like to learn things. I like to, I don't know, I just like that kind. But I also like children's books. And I read to the children the Bible through Shakespeare, all of it. The classics, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and about the ugliest one I ever read was The Lord of the Flies. Yes, we read that together. I read it to the kids. I really don't recommend it. But one of the books, and what I'm getting at is once in a while I still have to pick up some of those kids' books and read them to myself, to Tom. I don't usually read the whole book to Tom, but just parts. And the other day I got out in The Wind in the Willows, and by Kenneth Grahame. And I can remember when I first was going to read it to the kids, it didn't connect, and they were too young, so I put the book away. And then a few years later, we read it together, and they really enjoyed it. Winnie the Pooh, they just loved. When it finally, we didn't have TV, we still don't have TV, but when it finally made TV, and I guess Walt Disney or whoever made it, my folks invited the kids down because they knew that they loved Winnie the Pooh, and they went and saw it, and it just made them, they came home so unhappy because it just didn't do justice, and it ruined the whole thing for them. And they loved the book, not seeing it. And you know, lots of times that happens if we can imagine things. So anyway, I picked up the other day the book, Wind in the Willows. And I just love the way he writes. I don't care what he'd write. I just love it. And I haven't read this page yet, but I'm just going to read it, a page to you or something. It was a bright morning in the early part of summer. The river had resumed its wonted banks and its accustomed pace, and a hot sun seemed to be pulling everything green and bushy and spiky up out of the earth towards him, as if by strings. The mole and the water rat had been up since dawn, very busy on matters connected with boats and the opening of the boating season, painting and varnishing, mending paddles, repairing cushions, hunting for missing boat hooks, and so on, and were finishing breakfast in their little parlor and eagerly discussing their plans for the day, when a heavy knock sounded at the door. "Bother," said Rat, all over egg. "See who it is, Mole, like a good chap, since you've finished." The Mole went to attend to the summons, and the Rat heard him utter a cry of surprise. Then he flung the parlor door open and announced with much importance, "Mr. Badger." This was a wonderful thing indeed, that the Badger should pay a formal call on them, or indeed or anybody. He generally had to be caught if you wanted him badly, as he slipped quietly along a hedgerow of early morning or late evening, or else hunted up in his own house in the middle of the wood, which was a serious undertaking. The Badger strode heavily into the room, stood looking at the two animals with an expression of full seriousness. The Rat let Egg Spoon fall on the tablecloth and sat open mouthed. "The hour has come," said Badger at last with great solemnity. "What hour?" asked the Rat uneasily, glancing at the clock on the mantelpiece. "Whose hour, you should rather say," replied the Badger. "Why, Toad's hour, the hour of Toad. I said I would take him in hand as soon as the winter was well over. I'm going to take him in hand today." So that is the book, and I just love it, and I love the way he writes, and even reading it right now has put me in a whole nice, good mood. And now I think I can meet my day, make my lunch, because this is the hour. And when Kenneth Grahame wrote the book, it was for his young son. He only had one. And actually, Toad, his son, and Mr. Toad had the same personality or something. Anyway, it was Toad that was like his son, and he wrote it knowing, I mean, that's what he knew with that purpose. Anyway, I think, but his son was really killed when he was 19, and that was a very tragic part to Kenneth Grahame's life, and it changed his life forever. But the book, The Wind in the Willows, is a real classic. If you've not read it, you need to. And I just love the book, and I love reading, and that's part of my life and how I survived the 80s. So, I must go to the kitchen. The kitchen is calling. It's the hour. And I'll see you later. And have a good day. Don't forget to read something interesting, something you can learn.